Greetings, my friends. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Let's Get Gritty podcast. I'm so happy to be here with you guys today. I hope you're taking care of yourself. Hope you have a bunch of self love and that you're making it happen out there with your grit. With that said, I want to talk about announcements. The Let's Get Gritty podcast with Dr. India White will be featured on Swing Girl Media channel and on Spotify. So look out for more details to come. Also, you can connect with me via social media on Facebook at Miss India White. Twitter is the India White, excuse me. Um, you can connect with me on social media on Facebook, which is Miss India White. LinkedIn is the India White. Twitter is Indie Speak and Teach. Instagram is Indie238. My YouTube channel is India White 123. So I'm hoping to connect with you guys so we can do business together and we can support each other. Also, if you're wanting to be featured on the Let's Get Gritty podcast, please reach out to me at india.white.123@gmail.com. Please provide your bio and a photo so that we can get you scheduled. Also, check out my website when you get a chance, www.india-white.com for blogs, books, and upcoming events that I might have going on. And if you're interested in actually scheduling me for another event that you'll have planned, whether it's your school district, your business, or whatnot, I'd be honored to work with you guys. So with that said, today I was thinking about, we're ending September. Look how far we've come as far as with just the month and the year. We're already towards the end of the year. And so with that said, we've got to really start cultivating our grit and start, really kind of reactivating our grit and our motivation levels, because I'm seeing that, some of us, we've had so much on our plates, and sometimes that just comes with success, not really being lazy. It's just sometimes you have so much allotted to you, and, to whom much is given, much is required, right? So with that said, sometimes we just need a little in our step. We need a little bit of encouragement. And so I want to talk with you guys today about cultivating your grit when your motivation levels are low and when your grit levels are low. So we're going to talk about this because first off, we already know I've given you guys the definition of grit a million times by Dr. Duckworth. Grit is the passion and perseverance to obtain long-term goals. And I also coined it as great resilience in time during my TED talk. Now, my thing is sometimes, however, it's great to say, okay, I know I have resilience. I know I'm pretty good with time management, but can we keep it real? Sometimes you're going to have low grit levels. You're going to have low motivation. In addition, sometimes your students will also have low motivation. You got to think, I'm going to talk about the subject regarding students and then regarding leaders and how we can cultivate grit in both of these audiences. And I might share some personal stories with you. So thank you in advance for listening. So we're going to talk about cultivating grit when motivation levels are low, because unfortunately, when you're looking at student data, you're seeing that 2 to 3 million students are dropping out of high school, dropping out of college every year. So somewhere along the line, we have 2 million people in our nation that are giving up on their goals. Some of them are outliers, right? They might have started a YouTube channel and now they're making a fortune. And so they don't need to do that because they figured out, what they needed to do to be successful. And there's that. However, some students really should have persisted and they didn't. And so my thing is, how can we cultivate their grit when their motivation levels are low? Maybe they're dealing with grief. Maybe they're dealing with, not having what they need, to help them be successful. And therefore, they're feeling like they have low motivation because it's like, why continue to try when it just seems like, the writing is on the wall and this is not for me. Maybe they don't have somebody to push them. They don't have a mentor. They don't have family support. Or maybe, they heard something negative, that was discouraging. Maybe a teacher said they couldn't do it, or a coach, maybe shut them down and told them to pursue something else. Or maybe they got injured, while playing a sport or whatnot. And now they just feel like, what's the use? Because they had a dream to play professionally. There's so many different things that we can factor when we're looking at low motivation levels for students. And then, of course, we're going to talk about leaders as well, but let's first talk about students. So Knowing all of this, students are going to need our support as adults, whether you're a parent in the community or a teacher or you're a friend. Students are going to need support. And so here are 5 tips that we can utilize to motivate students. And I got this from Edutopia. So first things first is transformational teaching, making sure that when you're teaching, it's you're looking for a result, you're looking for change in a positive manner. You're not just teaching just because you have that hour, to teach students and you're just trying to pass time. No, you need to make sure that when you're teaching that the students are definitely engaged and that the students are getting what they need during that moment of instruction. And I can tell you right now, the second part talks about having engagement and encouragement for students. I'm just going to tell you, if the students don't like you, they're not going to really be engaged. If you've not been able to connect them and their lives into instruction, if you're not able to embed their personal experiences into instruction, you're wasting time, because these students, it will go in one ear and out the other, and then your classroom will become a playground, which is something that we're trying to avoid because we're trying to utilize instructional time as much as possible. The best way to do it, there's no way around it, is to really build relationships with students and to make it to where it's teacher facilitated, student led learning. And that takes time as well. Whether it's an algebra class or fifth grade class or you're teaching calculus, no matter what the class level is, strengthening student voice and empowering your students during learning is key, because if the students are convinced that you as their teacher are doing everything you can to bring out the best in them, they will perform for you. And if they're convinced that there is a positive, healthy relationship, they will go above and beyond for you. The last thing you want to do as an educator is to be calling home the first week of school with a complaint and threatening to give the student lunch detention or threatening to write a referral. You're already on the wrong foot. And guess what? You might be completely justified in what the student said or did, but you got to take a step back and realize, listen, I barely even know this student, right? So why am I so quick now to jump the guns and go to some type of disciplinary situation? Whereas I should have been focusing on motivating that child and getting to know that child so that they would perform in my class and they would want to come to my class. So those are some things that we want to keep in mind when we are dealing with students. Further, engaging and encouraging. When you're encouraging students, it's great. I don't know if you have a system, a behavior system, a reward system, a money system, something, a prize system where students can get rewarded in your class for good deeds or for answering questions correctly. But that's something to definitely think about whenever you are instructing and teaching your students. Okay. Further, um, choosing to acknowledge and be aware of your students and where they are. So, when you're acknowledging your students, it's you take it to the next level. You make it personal. You make it a real experience, a real moment, so that when they go home, if they're on the bus, they're walking home, or they get home at the dinner table and they're talking to their parents about their experience in school, they'll be able to mention you and it'll be a good conversation. It'll be something good, a nugget that you did, a seed that you planted that was positive, that would also encourage them in the future, even after they leave your class. I think, it's imperative that we do all that we can to continue to push our students and help our students, to motivate them so that they won't give up. But in doing so, definitely making sure that we are uh, encouraging them and engaging them during instruction, and we're not pulling the plug on their levels of motivation by choosing to keep them kind of outside of the really nitty gritty fun parts of instruction. So we have to be intentional as to how we can engage and encourage students in the classroom. Then acknowledging and being aware of your students. Now, this comes with knowing your students and knowing the community. What's going on with Sally? What's going on with, student B or whoever? What's going on with that student? Why are they sick? Why is their head down? What's happening at home? What's happening in the sports? What's happening in other classrooms? Do a little bit of digging and be a little bit nosy so that you can really acknowledge and be aware of the student and know what's going on, and then you can use this as I guess a point of connection and not really a gotcha. Not a gotcha, like, oh, I know what happened, so if you don't do this, then I'm going to get you here. No, we don't want to use that type of energy. We want to utilize our what we know, what we find out about our students to see how we can add on to that and build. Hey, I know that you're striving to, play on the team, and I know that, you're doing great here in this classroom. I want to help you so that you can play on that team. Continue to, keep me informed as to how I can support you because you're doing a great job. Spin it in a way where it's positive. 4, collaborating and connecting with your students. This is imperative, especially during, classwork, group activities, making sure that you're providing ample opportunities to connect, walk around the classroom, check for understanding, pause, take a moment, allow students to show you their work using whiteboards, allow students to have an empowered student voice so they can raise their hand and express themselves, help them to strengthen their ability to engage in mathematical discourse, and let them know that you're proud of them. Let them know that you see them. Okay. Another thing that you want to do is definitely holding your students accountable. If the students are forgetting to do certain things, making sure that you're reminding them of rules and procedures, because sometimes the students are just so busy, that they're not trying to intentionally, leave the room a mess or intentionally forget to do the exit slip or forget to do their homework. For the most part, they're not, right? So with that said, providing opportunities where you can hold them accountable in a way that is still very optimistic and where you're advocating for your students is key. So let's continue to move forward. I said that I would do this for students, and now I'm going to talk to you guys about doing this for teachers or, employees just in general, teachers or bosses or people that you work with on the job and whatnot. How do you motivate an adult? So here are 10 tips for motivating employees or people that you just work with, whether it's other educators or if you're in the business world and you're looking at this, how do you motivate people, within your organization? So I got this from LinkedIn from a guy named James Sale, his article. So he talks about 10 tips for motivating employees. And so these are his tips. So be motivated yourself. So he talks about just basically give them that good energy, right? So that when they come into the room, they are expecting, a great day, a fun day. And there's nothing like having an awesome boss or awesome person that you're working with. If you're in education, an awesome principal, awesome administrator. If you're in the business world, an awesome manager or whoever, there's nothing better than coming to work and they are on cloud 9 having an awesome day, because usually that trickles down and everybody else has a great day. There's nothing worse than coming to work and their energy is like a dead fish. There's nothing to pull from and it affects the environment. So it's imperative that we do what we can to be intentional. And even if you are that leader, it's imperative that we do what we can to bring awesome energy. And I think that especially, whenever you're trying to motivate somebody, whether you're a principal and you're trying to motivate your teachers, why should they be motivated to come to work? If you're a boss and you're trying to motivate your employees, what are you doing? What are you contributing to the atmosphere that would make them want to come and work for you, to serve you, to do that for you? We have to start thinking big picture, because people are all different and they do have needs and they do have emotional wants, emotional needs as well. And I think this right here takes emotional intelligence as well, and reading the room and understanding who you are working with. Not everybody is going to be a wallflower, very introverted and reserved, and not everybody's going to be bouncing off the wall like an extrovert. So finding out how to cater to the different personalities that you're working with is key. Second part here says praise your members or your teachers or your leaders, right, for doing the right things. There is nothing more annoying than being in an environment where you never get praise, you never get respect, you never get anything. It's hitting the ceiling. I think the pros that come from that is that you'll learn to cultivate and thrive and be awesome without that support. Or the big advantage of when you do have that support is you get to go further, because you feel that you're actually a part of something, you're a part of a vision, you're a part of a team with a healthy culture. So you could have a team, it could be the craziest culture in the world, toxic, messed up. You have a team that is thriving, you guys are making history, you're making things happen together. So if you're a part of a team and you're part of something, with an organizational and not, it is imperative, if you are the leader, to do your best to praise your members. There's nothing wrong with doing an email blast of, hey, I want to acknowledge ABC, or doing a blast during a faculty meeting, doing a blast during a conference and whatnot. There's nothing wrong with celebrating people, and giving honor to where honor is due, and not using it also as a tool to leave others out, or to bully, or to feed a toxic culture. Like, do it in a way where everyone feels that the organization is pushing a healthy vision, a healthy mission, and everybody is included. Also, treating everybody with respect. What's wrong with that, right? Treating everybody with respect, because, I mean, to be honest, they always say, your character, you can know somebody's character by how they treat the person in the room that can't do anything for them, or the person that they feel is less than them. We've got to be careful of who we're looking down our nose at. We have to be careful with how we choose to respect or not respect people, right? Because you don't know who they are. You don't know how they're going to eventually wind up helping you in the future. We've got to be very careful with these things. So treating everybody with respect is key, especially, leaders in education. When you have rock star teachers out here that are really making it happen, and they are molding beautiful children that are going to be awesome parts of society in the future, they need as many pats on the back as possible and as much respect as possible, because teaching is a beautiful career. It's a beautiful calling, and not everybody can do it. And so it's a beautiful thing when you find a wonderful teacher, a wonderful base of educators that are wanting to contribute. And so to do your best to respect them would be very wise as an educational leader. And then also like I said, in the workplace, just making sure that when you are treating everyone with respect, that you are upholding a healthy culture, and that everybody knows that you care, and that you're not just saying it in a way that's just stale or falls flat, but that they can feel it, and that they really know that you care for everyone. Also, helping your people learn. What's wrong with having people either sign up for courses, or having some professional development take place, so that you can continue to enhance the mindsets of those that you've been entrusted to work with, you've been entrusted to lead. So finding ways to help them learn, allowing them to go to conferences, allowing them to do professional development, having some book studies, right? And then, of course, number 5 here, it says making sure that everybody feels that they belong. I already touched on this already. That's huge. If that's not happening, I don't know what to tell you. So I think it's deep. If you can't make everyone feel like they belong, and you are leading a group of people, we definitely have to start looking, especially if the people are different from you. It should never be said that your company is favors one particular ethnicity, or your company only services one particular race, one particular language. Like, it should not be said that at this at these levels of leadership. And if so, you're dealing with some deep issues, some chronically deep issues, and I think that they won't be resolved overnight. And I think the best thing here is that sometimes leaders do need some training as well, and being sensitive to that. Maybe some if it's a issue where you can't allow, or you don't know how to make everybody feel like they belong, maybe you can take some some courses on culture, courses on connection, culture, courses on emotional intelligence. But I'll tell you, your real test will be when everybody feels that they belong. You will have a confirmation when it comes from a different, I think, from a different subgroup than what you're part of, and maybe even a different socioeconomic status than you're part of. When somebody that is not in your inner circle, but that is a part of your organization, can come up to you and give you a compliment, and it's not forced, that's when you know you're making change. And if that hasn't happened, keep working. So the next step here, number 6, stop micromanaging. So micromanaging is wild. And it when a leader micromanages, it opens up a conversation for, what are the underlying issues for this micromanaging? I know there might be a sense of urgency to get some tasks done, but how much do you really need to micromanage? I mean, is this something like, does the leader have an issue going on? Like, is there something else? So people start looking at micromanagers help, right? Because it's just tough. I was in a situation, whoo, and all I can say, micromanaging leaders can cause so much anxiety and stress and sleepless nights that it's something that we definitely as leaders have to do our best to never emulate. It's nothing to praise. And if you're a leader and you're like, oh, oops, I might struggle with micromanaging, please do yourself a favor and figure out how can we change the culture? How can we change that trait? Because I think micromanaging really stems down to a lack of trust and a bunch of fear. And I think that as leaders, there's no need for all that, right? We can do better. So, micromanaging is definitely something we have to do our best to halt if we are leaders. Number 7, acknowledging ideas publicly. This is great to acknowledge people's ideas publicly and to give them credit for those ideas. Not stealing those credits for yourself, whether it's like a business meeting or, something else, and then, somebody on the team said this or did this, and then you're crafting it to something that's called just being dead wrong. That's like copyright. There's like all kinds of stuff that you can say, plagiarism. And the college, the universities I came from, we're sticklers about that. We can't stand it. And so, it's like you give credit to whom credit is due. If somebody has said something or done something or wrote something or, sang something or invented something, give them credit, and acknowledge those ideas publicly, giving them credit for what they brought to the table. And then, of course, giving people a challenge. So sometimes people are just tired of the same old mundane, right? So giving them a challenge is key, so that they know that they have a goal to look forward to. Saying thank you. Believe it or not, some people actually just have a problem with saying please, thank you, and I'm sorry. And I don't get it. I don't get it. But saying thank you is awesome whenever you're working with leaders and you're trying to lead other adults. Saying thank you. Hey, can you get that cover for me? Thanks. You don't have to be mean about it. Like, you don't have to be stiff and stoic and like, who is that servicing? What are we getting out of that? Why can't we just treat each other like human beings with just simple respect, honor, and love and support towards each other, especially if they are on the same bandwagon as you and they're supporting the same vision and mission. When you build them up and you're nice to them, you're building yourself up, right? So learning to say thank you is key. And then, of course, number 10, he said, try to understand people's motivation and feed them. So that part, trying to understand. So being intentional at saying, I might not understand you all the way. I might not understand everything, but let me actually take the time to sit back and understand your motivation and feed you, as long as I know it's going to, of course, be a positive attribution to, our vision and our mission, and whatnot. And that I can also build you as a leader, because real bosses or leaders, they lead and cultivate others. They don't stifle them. They don't shut them down. They don't isolate themselves from them and segregate. They don't abuse them. They don't talk down to them. They don't disrespect them. Like, when you're a true leader, it doesn't matter your position. You can have the top position and not be a leader. You could really struggle with leadership skills. True leaders are trusted. True leaders, people want to be around true leaders. People want to work with true leaders. True leaders are magnets. They're not repellents. And, it's sometimes people get in these leadership positions and they're like, oh, I'm boss. Yeah. And it doesn't matter. What matters is how we treat the people that we work with, the people that we've been trusted to to lead and to support. And if you're really trying to work with people and build their motivation, you got to first you got to try to understand them and understand what motivates them and how you can nurture them, how you can build upon that, because it's building relationships as well, you know. So those are some key tips there. Another thing is, okay, how to cultivate grit in general. So your grit levels are low and you're like, okay, well, how do I build it from where I'm at? Well, first off, reset and find your passion. Sometimes grit levels are low because life happened. We're dealing with trauma. We're dealing with stress. We're dealing with change. We're dealing with the unexpected. We're dealing with sickness. There's so much that can really kind of tank your grit level. But thank goodness, grit is a fluid variable that can be recharged. And so, how to cultivate grit? First off, find your passion. What what gets you up in the morning? What gets you going? Is it your family? Is it a vision? Is it a dream? Is it a bucket list? What is it? Find out what that passion is, and then practice. Start looking at the things that you can do to build your grit, and start talking positive to yourself. Start having those positive affirmations. Also, realize that you're contributing to a greater purpose. When you're trying to cultivate that grit, continue to contribute your works to a greater purpose. Don't try not to be an island to yourself, right? Try to be connected to a greater purpose. And if you've tried, for instance, sometimes you might try and you're getting rejected, find another purpose, find another pool to play in, right? Like, life's not over. Just keep moving forward. And then give yourself time. So sometimes you have to give yourself a realistic timeline. Whether it's like you're trying to lose weight or you're trying to start a business, you're trying to finish a project. Give yourself time to do this, and be gentle with yourself. Talk to yourself. Say it's okay that you didn't reach it at this goal. I know you said 6 months. Maybe you need 2 years, and it's okay. It's not over yet. Sometimes you got to say, hey, it's not that bad. You're beating yourself up so bad, but it's not that bad. Talk positive to yourself, embracing that gritty culture. You can do it. You've got this. Stick it out. Hang in there. Make it happen. You've done this before, so you can do this before. And I'm going to be honest with you. Sometimes you do burn out. And sometimes you have low grit levels because you've just taken on so many projects. You have a family, you have career, you have aspirations, and sometimes you'll find that your grit levels are low, and you're like, India, I don't know how to cultivate grit now with all these things. And so I want to encourage you and say, embracing a gritty culture is when your grit seems like it's ran out, but you activate it again anyway. You talk positive to yourself anyway. Sometimes, I'm going to be honest, you're going to have some kind of like self-care in there. Sometimes you have to reset, take a break, rewrite those dreams down, be honest, go to counseling, go to therapy, go work out, go get a massage. I was looking at something. You can go to there's these things they call smash rooms. If you need to let out some aggression, you need to let out some frustration, some discouragement, you can go to a smash room and you can smash glass and stuff like TV boxes and stuff. A smash room. Did you guys know about that? I'm a little bit behind the times. But you can go to a smash room and you can pay for, I guess 30 minutes or an hour session. Like, I don't know, but you can go to a smash room and get all of that pent up frustration, stress, discouragement that you have caked inside of you, built up inside of you, get it out so that you can start fresh. You need to clean the slate sometimes. You don't need to beat yourself up. You need to clean the slate and give yourself more time. And sometimes you're dealing with grief. I remember, when I was studying for the dissertation and I was passing my qualifying exams. It was right before my qualifying exams that right before I kind of finalized that or whatnot, that my mom had passed away, right? And so I'm trying to finish the first, because the qualifying exams, it was like the exam, and then we had to have like the first 3 chapters done, um, of the dissertation kind of thing. And so, long story short, so I'm trying to manage all of this stress, all of this grief, all of this anxiety. The deadline's not moving. Like, you still got to meet the deadline despite life. And I remembered finishing the qualifying exam and just laying on my bed sobbing because I missed my mom. And I just remembered being like, Mom, we did it. We did it. And I could not stop crying. I could not stop. I mean, it was tears of joy and it was tears of relief, tears of sorrow. It was just so much. And then it was like, oh, I got to move forward. I gotta finish. It's not done. I gotta finish, right? And it was so much. And I needed grit. I had to cultivate grit because it was like after the qualifying exams, like your grit's like up here once you're taking them, and then after your grit goes like down here because like you're like, okay, I did it, but then you're like, no, because I've got to keep going, right? Like, you can't quit, like you didn't finish all the way. So I had to cultivate grit, and that happened by resetting, recharging, being honest enough to grieve, being honest enough to deal with my hurts and what I was dealing with, and then recharging myself enough to go at it again, and to get that goal in my vision to where nothing else mattered until I got that done. And that's what grit does. Grit helps you to really kind of clear the atmosphere, clear your focus. It's like if you have leaves on the sidewalk and you're blowing them, you're clearing the space so that you can finish. And that's what you have to do whenever you're cultivating grit. So, with that said, I hope that this episode can help you. And I also want to encourage you and say that, if your grit level is low, you're not alone. Don't shoot yourself in the foot. Don't think life is over. Do a little bit of self-care, have a little bit of me time. Also, look at your past accomplishments and be proud of yourself. Um, Not only that, find other people that are in your sphere of influence and see what they're doing and get some grit from them. Maybe you can tag team with people. Maybe you can compliment them on what they're doing. And another thing I want to challenge you to do is, if you feel like, maybe your grit level's a little low, maybe you need to look at those dreams that you have. Is there another dream inside of you? Did a dream die that you need to reactivate? What can you do? Challenge yourself again. You're still here, which means that you still have purpose. Life's not over. You've got so much more to contribute to society. And so, with that said, I hope that you're able to learn something from this and that you're able to bounce back and be great, and go with grit. So, with that said, thanks so much for tuning in to the Let's Get Gritty podcast. And until next time, stay gritty, and also make sure that you're following me on social media. I told you my Facebook is Miss India White, LinkedIn is The India White, Twitter is Indie Speak and Teach, Instagram is Indie238, YouTube is India White 123. Okay. And then if you're wanting to be featured on this gritty podcast, you can email me a photo and a bio at india.white.123@gmail.com. Also, another reminder to check out my website at www.india-white.com for blogs, books, and to schedule me for your next speaking or coaching event. And with that said, I'm hoping to hear from you. I'm hoping to connect with you guys. Thanks so much for a wonderful time. Take care.